Okay, so things come up, and I didn't get a chance to make that video the other day about the North Bend logging. And then the yarder was down the rest of the week and whatnot, so I didn't get a chance. I got my woods stuff on. This hat is sick. But before... before I go into that, I wanted to... Really? I hijacked the serial number sticker and whatnot off of the Kobelco Sweet Betty. And the reason I'm showing you that is because Isaac Larson, I can't believe he gave it up, brought me the tag. And he was also telling me, rest in peace, Sweet Betty, he was going to have it water jetted, which would have been sick. I didn't know it, but these chrome plates, they only went on the Kobelcos that were sent to the log show. So this was a log show specialty or whatever. So yeah, appreciate it very much, Isaac. I can't, like I said, I can't believe he gave that up. I mean, most guys would say, oh, it's just the Kobelco, but still, it's pretty cool. So that's definitely going up with the rest of the logging memorabilia. Anyway, so, and boys that work up there at Woods Logging Supply wanted to know if I could try to explain North Bend logging to them because they didn't quite understand it. And the reason I wanted to do it at work the other day was so that you were kind of looking at the unit, because where we're at right there would have been a perfect example. So it might have helped explain it a little bit better. So I'm going to try the North Bend. And the reason they did that mainly was when they come up and started doing North Bending and whatnot, they hadn't come out with, you know, the Bowman Sky cars or drop line carriages, anything like that. He's pretty much just shotgunning, slacklining, and high lead logging. So the reason you'd want a North Bend is if your unit wasn't square, or where you couldn't get your lines. Even if your unit's square, you know, you couldn't get your lines over it. So let's say maybe your unit went down and dog-legged out 400 or 500 feet and then come back, because units are not square ever. Anyway, so yeah, you know, and when you're shotgunning and high leading, you know, if you had a dog leg down there 600-700 feet, how are you going to get your lines through it? So basically what they would do is you would set your skyline up just like you normally would your first road, and then you take your haul back and you go out and through a block or maybe two and come back up. Now, and here's where it gets a little, because there's true north bending, it would go into a fall block with the butt rigging hanging off of the fall block. Nowadays, a lot of people do what they call either acme bending or eagle bending, and that's where they take their haul back or their haywire, same thing, and hook it into their drop line and pull the drop line out to them, because they it's either uphill or maybe you got some rock bluffs or for whatever, maybe you're lazy, I don't know. Anyway, so your haul back would go down and come up. When it come up to the line, like I say, you'd have a fall block, which is a big block, and the butt rigging to hang off of that, your haul back would shackle or whatever to the butt rigging. Then your skidding line would go through, would come down like it normally would, go through the fall block. No. Yes, it'd come down I'm getting confused. Confusing myself. They come down, go through the fall block, and then up to the, so that the haulback, when the haulback, it's going back, and you're ready for it to break away and pull that butt rigging out to you, what you do is you'd blow a 2 or whatever whistle they would use. So the yarder engineer, he'd start putting a little more pressure on a skid line brake, the carriage would stop, and the haulback would start pulling that butt rigging, and it would break away from the shotgun carriage, and it would go out. Now, wherever you stopped that carriage at was you could get that, let the carriage go way past you and bring the butt rigging right up here to you, or you could break it here, and it was pretty cool. And the reason they called it a wild bite was because after you went back ahead on it, now you've got your because that fall block, when it pulls out, it pulls your skid line out in a V. So you've got your skid line coming from the carriage through the block, back up to another block, and then out to the yarder. And so the haulback pulls it out. Well, when the skid line pulls it back up, that's where the wild bite is, because your haulback, your lines are jumping, running. And if you're gonna north bend, you've got to do a true wild bite, because that's where it's all about. And that's where the saying always comes from, don't ever stand in the bite. And the bite is within, if a line can hit you, whether it's coming this way or this way, you're in the bite. Or if you have your line through blocks and you're standing here where if the block or the strap broke and you can get hit, that's the bite. Anyway, so like I say, they'd hold a little more skid line pressure. That fall block could split off, start pulling that butt rigging out, and it would have your choker drops just like your butt rigging normally would, or your shotgun carriage, and pull it out. You'd stop it, pull your chokers out, set them. So basically what you're doing is high leading off the side here. You go ahead on your skid line, it starts picking that turn back up. Now, the way we always did it was when we spliced the eye for the skid line, we cut a chunk and spliced the eye around this chunk, so when that fall block come back up, the block wouldn't cut the line, because it would hit so hard. And with that chunk there, the chunk would slow it down, because you've got the other block here, right? And the fall block actually has a block that goes with it which I haven't really been around any of those, so I'm not even going to try to get into explaining that. Excuse me. But that's what that chunk is there for, so when it comes back up, because you got the carriage, you got the other block, you're not cutting your lines. So, like I say, basically you're high leading off to the side, and then it comes up. So, and then when the carriage takes off and starts running the logs up the hill, that's where that wild bite would come from. Now, if you think of it in that perspective, the haulback, it would be burning on the trees and whatnot. So what you may have to do is go down and through a block this way and come back across and then over, so that when the carriage come back in, you're not burning those trees and whatnot. There's a south bend, there's a north bend, and like I say, nowadays, and we don't even truly ever north bend anymore. It's pulling the line off the carriage or whatever. Excuse me. So I hope that helps you guys understand a little more. And like I say, it's been so many years since I've done any real north bending, and I'm sure there's bits and pieces that I forgot about or didn't mention, which I always seem, as soon as I shut the camera off, I'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. But anyway, so that's the idea behind north bending is they didn't have drop line carriages or whatnot, and they couldn't get their skyline or their road line over those logs, and was too much to tag out for or pull. So that's why they would use the north bend, south bend type of logging apparatus, or whatever you want to call it. And it truly was fun. In a true wild bite, it was, you had to be on your toes, because that line, it would not hit in the same spot twice, ever. And it would get to going like this. It'd make 100-foot swaths. So you always wanted to make sure you was behind or in front of a high stump, so that way if you were in the bite and something happened, you get down, the line hits the stump, slaps around the side, might get you here and there and scare the crap out of you, but at least you still went home. It was a lot of fun. And still, today, to use an Acme or an Eagle or a clamping carriage, it's all in the angle of where you stop that carriage at is where your chokers are going to come off. And we were logging a deep draw one time, and it was probably a couple 100 feet down, so we actually went over to help these guys, and that's what they were doing. They had the haulback hooked to the drop line. Well, we were out about 1,300 feet, and about 40 feet off the landing, when we got clear to the back, is where I needed to stop the car to get that right angle for, it to come back. So the kid that was pulling rigging for me, he'd never done any north bending, any high leading, anything like that. He thought that was pretty neat. Well, first, second turn, third maybe, I don't remember. He decided to stay on the uphill side in between the skyline and, he was in the safe, but so when I went ahead on it, instead of just picking the drop line all the way, or the skid line all the way up, and then what I did is I got my lines up tight, and then opened my skyline clamp, and then did my second set of the 3 and 3. That opens both clamp. Well, everything's tight. Not tight, but it's picked up. That carriage starts screaming back, and he's freaking out because he thinks he's going to get run over by this carriage now. Well, I knew that with the lines and everything tight, that it was only going to come so far. Basically it come back until it was super tight, and then it slingshots it back forward. So you got to be right, ready on the clamp. As soon as it comes back and you see it slowing down and getting ready to shoot back the other way, the second it stops, you got to hit that clamp, and go to your 2 and then pick it right up. So I hope that helps you guys understand a little bit better. We get back to work. I might try to do it again, because the way that unit is set, both directions, is set up really good to where we could do some nice north bending, and it might help you understand a little more. And the deal with the yarder was, a rocket arm? Something broke. Anyways, it filled the oil pan full of diesel. They had some work done to it a while back, and the guy working on it put the wrong part or whatever in it, so that's why it did that. I had said something on video that day or the day before about it needing fuel filters. Well, it didn't need fuel filters. That's what the problem was. But as for this Edco, it's got some snoot. It's got lots and lots of horsepower, and it's got lots and lots of speed to go along with it. The one thing that is different is on that other one that I ran, it was a swing to lead machine, so whenever you changed roads, it would pull itself in. This one, actually, you got to reach behind the seat, and it does have a power swing. Not like you're going to swing turns like a swing yarder does, but it does have, and so I guess that's what makes it the Edco Mustang 2. Stay safe, get logs, friends.